Once upon a time, there lived a man named Lucas and his wife, Angela. They were happily married, and soon after their wedding, Lucas decided to share something from his past with Angela. He told her about an ex-girlfriend named Agatha who had left him for another man. This revelation was difficult for Angela to hear, but she appreciated Lucas's honesty. When their first child was born, a beautiful baby girl, Lucas asked if they could name her Agatha. Angela was initially unhappy about this idea, feeling uncomfortable naming their daughter after Lucas's ex-girlfriend. However, Lucas managed to convince her, explaining that naming their daughter Agatha would help him move on from his past. Reluctantly, Angela agreed. 2 years later, they welcomed another child, a son named Felix. Lucas adored his daughter Agatha and showered her with love and attention. He bought her everything she wanted, often neglecting Felix in the process. Lucas's love for Agatha was so overwhelming that he would call Angela every hour just to check on her. Angela occasionally felt jealous of the attention Agatha received, but Lucas reassured her that he loved all of them equally. As Agatha grew, Lucas's affection for her only increased. He frequently made her promise that she would not have a boyfriend when she grew up. Agatha, not fully understanding the implications of her promise, would agree innocently. 18 years passed, and Agatha blossomed into a beautiful young woman. She began making friends, including some boys, which made Lucas very anxious and angry. One day, Lucas called Agatha to him. He reminded her of the promise she had made when she was a child, that she would not have a boyfriend. Agatha, now more mature, explained that she had been too young to understand what she was promising back then. This response made Lucas furious. He went to Angela seeking her support and asked her if their daughter was too young to have a boyfriend. Angela calmly replied that Agatha was 18 and had the right to choose her friends and relationships. Lucas could not accept this. He became more controlling and insisted that Agatha follow his wishes. However, Agatha was determined to live her life freely. She loved her father but wanted to make her own choices. This conflict caused tension in the household. Lucas's insistence on controlling Agatha's life strained his relationship with both his daughter and his wife. Agatha, feeling the pressure from her father, sought comfort in her friends. She confided in Felix, who had grown up feeling somewhat neglected by their father. Felix understood Agatha's feelings and supported her decision to live her life independently. He encouraged her to follow her heart and assured her that he would always be there for her. Despite Felix's support, the tension in the family continued to grow. Lucas's constant interference made Agatha feel suffocated. One evening, after a heated argument, Agatha decided to leave home for a while. She needed space to think and figure out her path without her father's overbearing presence. Angela tried to mediate the situation, but Lucas's stubbornness made it difficult. He could not see past his fear of losing his daughter to another man, just as he had lost Agatha, his ex-girlfriend many years ago. This fear blinded him to the fact that he was pushing his daughter away. While Agatha was away, one of her male friends came looking for her. He arrived at their house and met Lucas outside. The young man was about to leave when Lucas called out to him, telling him to stop. Lucas warned him sternly never to be seen with his daughter again, threatening that he would do something terrible if he disobeyed. Frightened, the young man quickly left. Every day, Lucas missed Agatha more and more. He couldn't bear the emptiness he felt without her around. Finally, he decided to go to her friend's house to see if she was there. When he arrived, he was relieved to find Agatha. With a heavy heart, Lucas apologized for his behavior. He promised her that he would no longer bother her or try to control her life. Agatha, seeing the genuine remorse in her father's eyes, believed him and agreed to come back home. Upon returning, Lucas continued to shower Agatha with gifts, hoping to make up for his past mistakes. He bought her clothes, jewelry, and anything else he thought would make her happy. However, Agatha began to feel uncomfortable with the constant flow of presents. She sensed that her father's gifts were a way to keep her close and under his control. One day, Agatha decided to talk to her mother about it. She expressed her discomfort and told Angela that she felt suffocated by Lucas's attention and gifts. Angela, however, dismissed Agatha's feelings, saying she was being foolish. She believed that Lucas was just showing his love and trying to make up for the past. Feeling unheard, Agatha turned to her brother Felix. She told him how uncomfortable she felt with their father's behavior. Felix, who had always envied the attention Agatha received, said he wished he were in her position. He couldn't understand why Agatha was complaining when she had everything she could ever want. Despite her family's lack of understanding, Agatha knew she needed to address the situation. She decided to have a serious conversation with her father. One evening, she found Lucas in the living room looking through old photo albums. She sat down next to him and took a deep breath. "Father," she began softly, "I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I need to talk to you about something important." Lucas looked at her with concern. "What is it, Agatha?" Agatha explained how she felt overwhelmed by his constant gifts and attention. She told him that while she loved him, she needed space to grow and make her own decisions. She asked him to trust her and allow her to live her life independently. Lucas listened quietly. After a long silence, he began to speak. There was something Agatha needed to know. The reason she was named Agatha was because of his ex-girlfriend, whom he had loved very much. He confessed that he saw his ex-girlfriend in her, and the thought of another man having her made him feel incredibly jealous. Agatha was shocked. She asked what he meant by that. But Lucas looked away, his expression troubled. He told her she would understand soon. A cryptic response. That made Agatha even more scared of her father. Feeling uneasy, Agatha decided to confide in her mother. One afternoon, she told Angela that she was in love with a boy at her school. Angela advised her to be careful and not make the same mistakes she had made. Agatha asked what she meant by that. Angela sighed deeply. She explained that Lucas didn't love her as much as she loved him. He had named Agatha after his ex-girlfriend and was so obsessed with her because he saw his ex-girlfriend in her. A chill ran down Agatha's spine. This was what she had been trying to tell her mother. She didn't like the way Lucas bought her gifts and tried to keep her close. Angela dismissed her concerns, saying it was nothing. Lucas was just so obsessed with his ex-girlfriend that he saw her in Agatha. Agatha was frustrated. She couldn't wait to run far away with her boyfriend. She told her mother that after her exams, she planned to run away with him. Unknown to Agatha and Angela, Lucas was listening to their conversation. Hearing Agatha's plans to run away made Lucas's love for her die down. It was replaced by anger and resentment. How dare she think of running away? Where did she plan to go, and who was she going to leave him with? Lucas became obsessed with keeping Agatha all to himself. He began to think of ways to ensure she would never leave him. His mind raced with dark thoughts as he considered how to keep his daughter from escaping. As Agatha prepared for her exams, she noticed her father's behavior becoming more controlling. He started restricting her movements and monitored her closely. Agatha felt trapped and more determined than ever to leave as soon as she could. One evening, Lucas confronted Agatha in her room. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "You belong with your family. You need to forget about your boyfriend." Agatha stood her ground. She loved her father, but she needed to live her own life. "You can't keep me here against my will," she told him. Lucas's eyes flashed with anger. "We'll see about that," he muttered. Agatha, frightened but determined, knew she had to act quickly. She secretly contacted her boyfriend and made plans to leave immediately after her exams. She also confided in Felix, who, though initially envious, realized the seriousness of the situation and promised to help her. After her exams, Agatha came home to pack her things, thinking nobody was around. Unknown to her, Lucas was in the house. When he saw her packing her things, he grabbed her and locked her up in a secret soundproof room, where nobody had access except him. Agatha realized that her worst fears had come true. She was trapped with no way to escape and no one to hear her cries for help. Lucas then packed all of Agatha's belongings, including her phone, and burned them. He wanted to erase any evidence of her presence or her plans to leave. When Angela came home from work, she asked Lucas if he had seen Agatha because she knew Agatha was finishing her exams today and was supposed to be home by now. Angela said she had called Agatha's phone, but it was not connecting. Lucas, maintaining his calm facade, told Angela that he hadn't seen Agatha since she left for school in the morning. To divert suspicion, he started shouting, accusing Angela of spoiling their daughter. He claimed that Agatha might have run away because she had done it before. Lucas's loud accusations were meant to confuse Angela and make her believe that Agatha had indeed run away. Angela was worried and upset. She couldn't understand why Agatha would leave. Without saying anything, she began to question herself, wondering if she had missed any signs of her daughter's unhappiness. Lucas, seeing her distress, continued to fuel her doubts by bringing up past incidents when Agatha had been rebellious. Angela tried calling Agatha's friends, hoping someone had seen or heard from her, but nobody had any information. The more she searched for answers, the more anxious she became. Lucas watched her with a mixture of satisfaction and unease. He was relieved that his plan was working. As days turned into weeks, Angela's worry intensified. She reported Agatha missing to the police, but there were no leads. Lucas played the part of the concerned father, joining the search efforts and comforting Angela, all while keeping Agatha hidden away in the secret room. Agatha, trapped in the soundproof room, felt hopeless and terrified. She had no idea how long she would be kept there or if anyone would ever find her. She thought about her mother and Felix, wondering if they were worried about her. The isolation was unbearable, and Agatha's fear grew with each passing day. Meanwhile, Felix noticed the changes in his father's behavior. Lucas was more agitated and secretive than ever. Felix started to suspect that something was wrong. He tried to talk to his mother about it, but Angela, consumed with worry over Agatha's disappearance, paid little attention. One day, while Lucas was out running errands, Felix decided to search the house for clues. He went through Agatha's room, looking for anything that might explain her sudden disappearance. In the back of his mind, he remembered the strange, unused storage room in the basement that his father always kept locked. Curiosity and concern drove Felix to check the basement. He found the door to the storage room locked, as usual. Determined to find out what was inside, he searched the house for the key. After a thorough search, he finally found it hidden in Lucas's room. Just as he was trying to open the door, Lucas came in and took the key from him, warning him never to go near the door again. Days later, Felix told his mother about the secret room in the basement. He shared his suspicions about his father, but Angela, blinded by love and trust, accused Felix of lying about Lucas. She couldn't believe that Lucas could do something so terrible. That night, Felix couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, restless, thinking about what his father might be hiding. The mystery of the secret room gnawed at him, making him restless. The next day, he told his mother that he was planning to travel to stay with a friend because he was tired of living with them. Angela, still trusting Lucas, dismissed Felix's concerns. Unknown to them, Lucas overheard their conversation and began to feel scared. He devised a plan to deal with Felix and ensure his secret remained hidden. 2 days later, Felix went missing. Angela tried calling his phone, but there was no connection. She asked around, but no one had seen or heard from him. Panic set in, and she reported him missing just as she had done with Agatha. Lucas pretended to be concerned, but inside he was relieved that Felix was out of the way. Meanwhile, every morning and night, Lucas would forcefully have his way with Agatha in the secret room. Agatha felt completely powerless and violated her spirit, breaking more each day. Soon, she discovered she was pregnant. Desperate for proper medical care, she asked Lucas to take her to the hospital, but he refused. Instead, he bought her books about pregnancy, telling her to read and learn from them. Agatha's pregnancy progressed under terrible conditions. She had no one to confide in and no proper medical attention. She often thought about her mother and Felix, wondering if they were still looking for her and if they would ever find out the truth. Angela, now dealing with the disappearance of both her children, was beside herself with worry. She clung to Lucas for support, unaware that he was the cause of her misery. The day of Agatha's delivery came. Once again, she begged Lucas to take her to the hospital, but he coldly refused. He told her to handle it herself, saying, "You are a woman. You can manage without any support." Agatha, scared and in pain, had no choice but to give birth alone. She delivered a baby boy, her heart filled with both joy and sorrow. As the days went by, Agatha struggled to care for her newborn in the confined space. Lucas's cruelty continued. Whenever Agatha asked him for anything, he would always demand something in return. His condition was clear. She had to let him have his way with her if she wanted food, clothes, or any other basic necessities. Agatha, trying to protect herself and her baby, refused his advances. Lucas responded with harsh punishment. He starved her for days, not caring that she had just given birth and needed nourishment to care for her baby. Agatha felt weak and desperate, but she refused to give in to Lucas's demands. She grew thinner and weaker, struggling to produce enough milk for her baby. Lucas's threats and manipulation wore her down, but she clung to the hope that one day she and her child would be free from his control. When Agatha saw that she couldn't produce enough milk for her baby, she felt desperate and helpless. The lack of food and proper care had taken a toll on her body, and her baby needed nourishment. Reluctantly, she gave in to Lucas's demands, hoping to secure food and other necessities for her child. Lucas, satisfied with his control over Agatha, provided her with the food and supplies she needed. But his cruelty didn't stop. Agatha endured the torment for the sake of her baby. But the situation took a heavy toll on her mental and physical health. 2 months after giving birth, Agatha found out she was pregnant again. The news filled her with dread. She was already struggling to care for one baby under such harsh conditions, and the thought of bringing another child into this nightmare was unbearable. She felt trapped and hopeless, not knowing how she could possibly survive another pregnancy and childbirth in such circumstances. Lucas, upon learning about the new pregnancy, was both pleased and more possessive. He saw it as another way to keep Agatha bound to him, ensuring she would never be able to leave. He continued his controlling behavior, making Agatha's life even more difficult. Agatha's health deteriorated further as her pregnancy progressed. She lacked proper medical care and nutrition, and the stress of her situation made everything worse. When the time came up for Agatha to deliver her second baby, she pleaded with Lucas once again to take her to the hospital. But he coldly refused, just as he had done before. With no support, Agatha had to give birth alone in the secret room. The labor was long and painful, and she felt weaker than ever. Somehow, she managed to deliver a baby girl. But the experience left her physically and emotionally drained. As Agatha cared for her newborn and her first child, she struggled more than ever. Lucas's demands for her compliance continued, and the cycle of abuse seemed never-ending. Agatha did everything she could to protect her children, even if it meant sacrificing her own well-being. Meanwhile, Angela's worry for Agatha and Felix grew stronger. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Agatha had never been the type to just disappear, and the fact that both of her children were missing made her even more suspicious. Desperate for answers, Angela pressured the police to investigate Lucas more thoroughly. She insisted that her daughter couldn't have run away without a trace, and shared every piece of information she could think of, hoping it would lead them to the truth. At first, the police were reluctant, but Angela's persistence made them take her concerns more seriously. They decided to keep a closer watch on Lucas, who noticed their interest and quickly began to cover his tracks. When the police questioned him, Lucas was calm and convincing. He told them that Agatha had a history of running away and that she had done it before. He even suggested that they investigate Agatha's boyfriend, implying that he might be involved in her disappearance. The police followed Lucas's suggestion and went to Agatha's boyfriend's house. They searched for any evidence that might connect him to Agatha's disappearance, but found nothing suspicious. Without any solid evidence, the police eventually dropped the case, believing that Agatha had indeed run away, as Lucas claimed. Angela was heartbroken. But with no help from the authorities and no new leads, she was left with only her unanswered questions and growing despair. 15 years passed. And during that time, Agatha gave birth to 4 children, all fathered by Lucas. Trapped in the secret room, she did her best to raise her children in the harsh environment she was forced to live in. As they grew older, Agatha knew they needed more than what she could provide within the confines of the room. One day, she gathered the courage to talk to Lucas about enrolling their children in school. She knew they deserved a proper education and a chance at a better life. But when she brought up the idea, Lucas's response was as cold and controlling as ever. He refused outright, telling her, "You must be out of your mind to think I would ever allow the children to go to school." Instead of giving them the opportunity to learn and grow, Lucas bought them some books and writing supplies. He ordered Agatha to teach them how to read and write herself. He had no intention of letting them leave the house or be exposed to the outside world. Agatha's heart sank, but she knew she had no choice but to comply. As the years went by, Agatha did her best to educate her children with the limited resources she had. She taught them how to read, write, and do basic arithmetic, all while hiding the truth about their father and the world beyond the walls of their home. Despite her efforts, she couldn't ignore the growing fear that her children were being deprived of the life they deserved. Lucas's control over her and the children remained unbreakable, and Agatha felt more trapped than ever. Inside, Agatha's hope for freedom slowly faded. She lived each day in quiet despair, dreaming of a life she once had and a future she feared would never come. The years passed, and her children grew up knowing only the isolated life Lucas had forced upon them. Agatha's only solace was the love she had for her children and the hope that one day something might change. One day, Agatha asked Lucas to change the toilet because it was no longer suitable for her and the kids. The bathroom was in terrible condition, making their already harsh living situation even worse. Lucas looked at her coldly and said he would only do it if she let him have his way with her first. Desperate for any improvement, Agatha reluctantly agreed. After Lucas was done with her, he did not keep to his promise. Instead, he told Agatha to manage with the bathroom they had. This betrayal hurt her deeply, but she had no choice but to endure it, for the sake of her children. Meanwhile, Angela grew tired of Lucas's cold and distant behavior. He barely paid attention to her, and the love that once existed between them seemed long gone. Frustrated and lonely, Angela decided she couldn't live like this anymore. She packed her things and left him, hoping to find some peace and start a new life. Instead of feeling sad or regretful about Angela leaving, Lucas felt a strange sense of relief. With her gone, he felt he had one less person to deceive and control. When Agatha asked about her mother and brother, Lucas told her that Angela had left him and that Felix had suddenly disappeared. Agatha was devastated. She knew deep down that Lucas was responsible for her brother's disappearance, but she felt powerless to do anything about it. One day, Agatha's eldest child, Philip, began to question their situation. He was smart and curious, even though he knew nothing about the outside world. His questions became more persistent. "Why can't we go outside, Mama?" Philip asked one evening. "Why do we have to stay here all the time?" Agatha's heart ached as she looked into her son's innocent eyes. "It's for your safety," she said gently. "The world outside can be dangerous." Philip accepted her answer for a moment, but then asked, "But why is it dangerous for us?" Agatha struggled to find the right words. "We have to stay here because it's safer for us," she said, her voice trembling. Philip didn't seem satisfied with the answer, but he didn't press further. Instead, he turned his attention to his younger siblings, trying to keep their spirits up with games and stories. Agatha watched him with a heavy heart, knowing she had to find a way to give her children a better life. One day, while Lucas was out shopping, Agatha saw a small chance to escape. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she felt she had to try. She called her son, Philip, over, and they both went to the door, hoping to find a way out. Agatha tried to open it, but it was locked tight. They looked around for something to help, even using a kitchen knife to try and pry it open. Despite their best efforts, the door wouldn't budge. In their struggle, they left scratches on the wall near the door. Realizing they couldn't hide the marks, Agatha felt a deep sense of fear. She knew Lucas would notice and wouldn't believe any excuse she made. When Lucas came home and saw the scratches, his face twisted in anger. He immediately demanded to know what had happened. Agatha, trying to protect her children, told Lucas that the kids had been playing and accidentally scratched the wall. But Lucas didn't believe her. He could see the fear in her eyes and knew she was lying. In his anger, Lucas decided to punish her in a way that would make sure she never tried to escape again. His fury only grew as he realized that Agatha had likely tried to escape. In his twisted mind, he saw her actions as a betrayal, and he decided to punish her in the most cruel and degrading way he could think of. He grabbed Agatha roughly and forced her to the ground, in front of their terrified children. Despite her pleas for mercy and the cries of her children, Lucas had his way with her right there, making sure the kids witnessed everything. It was a horrifying scene, meant to break Agatha's spirit and instill fear in the children, so that they would never dare to try escaping again. As if that wasn't enough, Lucas further punished them by depriving the entire family of food for 3 days. He locked the kitchen and kept the key with him, leaving Agatha and the children to suffer in hunger. The children cried from the pain in their empty stomachs. But Agatha could do nothing to help them. She felt utterly defeated, her hope crushed by Lucas's cruelty. The days passed slowly, each one filled with fear, shame, and helplessness. Agatha grew weaker. Her children lost energy as they struggled to survive the harsh punishment. Lucas watched them suffer, feeling satisfied that he had regained control. In his mind, he believed they would never try to escape again. But deep inside Agatha, determination began to grow stronger. She knew that if they were going to survive, she had to find a way out of this nightmare. She couldn't let her children grow up trapped like this, under the control of a man who showed no kindness. Although her body was weak and her spirit was hurt, Agatha silently promised herself that she wouldn't give up. Agatha's world became darker when her youngest child, a little girl who had always struggled with asthma, became gravely ill. The lack of food and the constant fear had weakened her body. Now she was so sick. She could barely move. Agatha watched in horror as her daughter's breathing grew shallow, her chest rising and falling with painful effort. It was clear she needed help, but Agatha was powerless to provide it. When Lucas returned home, Agatha was filled with desperation. She fell to her knees, begging him to take their daughter to the hospital. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, her voice cracking with fear and urgency. She knew that without medical care, her daughter's life was in danger. But Lucas, cold and unfeeling, refused. He claimed that taking her to the hospital would draw unwanted attention, that people would ask questions he couldn't afford to answer. He was more concerned with protecting his dark secret than with saving his daughter's life. Agatha's heart broke as she realized there was no way to convince him. She was forced to watch as her daughter's condition worsened. The little girl's breathing became more labored, until finally it stopped altogether. The room fell into a suffocating silence, the stillness broken only by Agatha's quiet sobs, feeling a profound emptiness settle inside her. The loss was unbearable, the pain so deep, it felt like a physical wound. In the aftermath of her daughter's death, Agatha's grief quickly turned to anger. The sorrow that had once consumed her was replaced by a burning fury. She couldn't accept what had happened. How could Lucas be so cruel, so heartless? She had lost her child because of his cold refusal to act. The injustice of it all filled her with a rage she had never felt before. As the years went by, Agatha's life became a constant struggle. In the small, cramped room where she and her children had been trapped for nearly 26 years, the children, now adults, were too big for the space that had once barely fit them as kids. The walls felt like they were closing in, and the air was thick with despair. Agatha, once full of life, was now 43 years old, her body marked by years of neglect and abuse, her spirit worn down by the constant control Lucas had over them. One day, Agatha fell seriously ill. Her body, weakened by years of stress and poor living conditions, couldn't fight off the sickness. She lay in the tiny room, too weak to move, while her children watched in fear. They knew their father wouldn't help. When Lucas finally returned and saw her condition, he refused to take her to the hospital, just as he had refused before. Instead, he brought back some medicine from the pharmacy. Luckily, Agatha slowly started to recover, but her hatred for Lucas only grew stronger. She could no longer just sit and accept their fate. One day, gathering every ounce of strength she had left, she decided to confront Lucas again. But this time, she wouldn't beg. She was done with that. When Lucas entered the room, she stood tall, despite the exhaustion weighing her down. Agatha looked Lucas straight in the eyes, her voice steady, but filled with quiet anger. She said, "We can't live like this anymore, Lucas. The children are grown now. They need proper education, medical care, and a chance to live normal lives. We all do. We need to get out of this room. This isn't a life, it's just surviving." Lucas's response was cold and heartless, as always. Without even considering her words, he shook his head. "No, you will never leave this room. None of you will. This is your life now, and it's going to stay that way. I won't let you out, and I won't let anyone take you away from me." Agatha's frustration finally boiled over into anger. She had been pushed to her breaking point. Years of bottled-up rage, sorrow, and hopelessness burst out of her. She looked at Lucas with pure hatred. "You are a monster, Lucas. You've taken everything from me and from our children. But I promise you this: you will not die in peace. You will suffer for what you've done to us. You will not die well." Lucas didn't flinch. He showed no remorse, no guilt. Instead, he sneered at her, brushing off her words as if they meant nothing. "Your curses mean nothing to me, Agatha," he said coldly. "I am in control here, and nothing you say will change that." As Lucas left the room, Agatha sank down, feeling more trapped than ever. The walls seemed to close in even more. The air felt heavier. Her children looked at her with a mix of worry and admiration. They had seen their mother stand up to their father like never before. But nothing had changed. They were still prisoners in this tiny, suffocating space. A week after Agatha's confrontation with Lucas, another of her children, Doris, fell seriously ill. Agatha could see that her daughter was in terrible shape. She was terrified that she might lose another child. This time, Lucas seemed to understand the situation was dire. He knew he couldn't afford to let another child die. So he decided to take Doris to the hospital. When Agatha begged to go with them, Lucas refused. He didn't want anyone to see her. He feared that if people saw how thin and frail Agatha had become, they would suspect something was wrong. So he left the house with Doris, promising to bring her back as soon as she was better. At the hospital, the doctors were shocked when they saw Doris. She was severely malnourished, her condition alarming. One of the doctors, clearly disturbed, pulled Lucas aside. If you hadn't brought her in today, she wouldn't have made it, the doctor said gravely. Meanwhile, back at home, Agatha was praying with all her strength. She begged God to save her daughter's life, desperate and unable to do anything else. She once again tried to open the door, but it was as hopeless as before. She felt trapped and helpless, just like she had for the past 25 years. At the hospital, it was getting late. The doctor suggested Lucas go home and rest. Instead, Lucas rented a room at a nearby hotel, not wanting to leave Doris alone for too long. The next morning, he returned to the hospital. The doctor, now more suspicious of Lucas, asked about Doris's mother. Lucas quickly lied, saying she was dead. The doctor frowned, but didn't press the matter further. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next couple of days, Doris's condition improved significantly. The doctor told Lucas she would soon be ready to go home. Lucas, realizing the doctor might be getting suspicious, decided to warn Doris. He went to her hospital room and told her in a stern voice, "You must not tell anyone about our home, or about your mother. Do you understand? If you say anything, there will be consequences." Doris, frightened and still weak, nodded. She promised not to say anything. But that evening, as Lucas returned to his hotel room, he was restless. He couldn't sleep, haunted by the fear that Doris might slip up and reveal their secret. Back at the hospital, a nurse named Vivian came to check on Doris. She noticed the sadness in the girl's eyes. She asked her gently, "How did you get so sick, sweetheart?" At first, Doris was too scared to answer, but Vivian was kind, reassuring. "You can trust me," she said softly. "I won't tell anyone if you don't want me to." Feeling a small sense of safety for the first time, Doris slowly started to tell the nurse everything. She spoke of the secret room, of how they had been locked away for years, of the terrible things Lucas had done to them. Vivian listened in shock, her heart breaking for the young girl. After Doris finished her story, Vivian quietly left the room. She went straight to her office and called the police. She knew she had to act fast to save Doris and her family. The next morning, when Lucas returned to the hospital, he was unaware that plainclothes police officers were waiting for him. As he walked into Doris's room, they appeared, and before he could react, he was arrested. Lucas was handcuffed and led away. His control over Agatha and the children finally shattered. The police quickly moved to rescue Agatha and the other children. When they entered the house and unlocked the secret room, they found them weak, but alive. Agatha was overwhelmed with relief as they were taken to the hospital for immediate care. The nightmare that had lasted for 25 years was finally over. In the following months, Lucas was put on trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge, disgusted by his actions, made it clear that Lucas would never see freedom again. For Agatha and her children, life began anew. They were finally free from the prison that had held them for so long. Agatha, with the support of her children, began to rebuild her life. She found strength in her faith and soon became an evangelist, inspiring others. In a surprising turn of events, Agatha reconnected with her old boyfriend. He had gone through a difficult divorce, and when they met again, The old feelings between them rekindled. He admired her strength and the love she had for her children. Eventually, they got married, and for the first time in decades, Agatha experienced happiness and peace. Agatha and her children slowly healed from the trauma of their past. They found joy in the simple things: sunlight, fresh air, and the freedom to live their lives. They knew that the scars of the past would never fully disappear, but they were determined to move forward, leaving the darkness behind. And so, despite everything they had endured, Agatha and her family found their way to a new beginning where they could finally live freely, love deeply, and embrace the future with hope. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.